Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. And today I'm going to speak about the debunking modernism because we all talk about modern, what is not modern. And I'm going to speak to you from the perspective of what was modern in Ramayan and what was modern in Mahabharata and what is modern today. So before you know that the word modern has been misused so much, so many times. Today I'm speaking to my American audience also. So those of you who are joining who will listen to this show, as well as Indian. What is modern? And it's a very relative topic. Now we are told all the time, be modern in your outlook, be current, be real. All these different talks are there. And if you look at the history, ancient history of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which was Ramayana was practically, I proved in my book, the global footprint of Ramayana available in India and one arrow, one kill available in the West and probably all the other countries also. People can buy from Australia and other countries. And also they can buy the hard copies in the US, hard physical, like the hard cover copies, which is much more beautiful and colored. And paperback is available in the West and also in India, the global footprint of Ramayana from kapoth.in. So when we talk about modernism and the modernism is the definition is given that what is current and what is the modern society, today's modern society, and the modern culture, what is modern culture today. Yeah. So I'll take examples from the past and also apply to the current examples. Now, everyone is on the current affairs, mostly current affairs. And the modern society is characterized by hypocrisy, deceit, lies, and all kinds of artificial talks, which is known as small talk. We do not see any modern society talking honestly or truthfulness. These are all become relative topics. So, are we really living in the modern world? No, because we are just trying to see that whatever we say is the right, and we work on justification. The the postmodernism means revisioning the old history. Like for example, the modern was previous, now we are in postmodern. We are supposed to be more mature now, and we are more supposed to be more practical now. Do we see that in the society today? No, we don't see that. So I'll give you many examples in the politics also and other areas, and we'll contrast that from Ramayana and Mahabharata, that whether we are actually living in the modern world. Now, if you look at the life and the teachings in the old period, even if you go back 2000 or 3000 years back, then the society was far more peaceful. Even though the turbulence in Europe and West Asia and Northern Africa had already started. African continent was not touched much, but mostly the problem was in the Europe, where the ideas were the constant wars for capture of Western Europe had already started. Eastern Europe, which was a flashpoint even that time, had already started. If you look at my book Gold, Glory, and God, I have actually mentioned that how the conquest of religion-based wars, the concept of religion-based wars was started by the Roman Empire, where they usurped Christianity to be their main culture for the Middle East. And the Romans decided the strategy of if people do not want to follow their rule, they must convert to their faith. And so therefore they use extensive militaries in the West Asia, Byzantine Roman Empire. You must have seen all these wars. It's already very clearly mentioned. So, why we have to work on this deep modernism? What is modern? Now, if you look at the definition of dharma, dharma deals with four topics, which is kama, moksha, and karma. Karma, moksha, and kam. These are the topics of Veda, and anything which comes from Veda on the basis of Veda is called dharma, and dharma is the standard for modernism. But today that is being completely ignored because it is said, generally said, and many of the fake Indologists and and even mythologists which do not agree that they're talking myth are also fake. They're not talking real. Like the Greek history, Roman history is mostly mythology. There is no ancient fables and stories on which any scientific evidence on the entire Greek and Roman mythology. Nothing. And even they are speaking their history and trying to tell everyone that how civilized they were, what was the culture. You know, if you look at the pre-Roman history and pre-Greek history, even going back from Greek also, between the Greeks and the Romans, there's a difference of approximately 500 to 1,000 years, not less than that. And even then, that history we see that the Greek architectures and the Greek so-called Greek symbols, they were also taken up from a pre-existing civilization. They did not build all those huge buildings. They did not create all those huge buildings. They were taking it from somewhere else. The Romans took from Greek, and like the Greek port of Alexandria was taken over by the Romans. And then the Islamic invasion started at that time. By the ninth century, Islamic invasion started. Initially, people generally write 7th century, but that's not true. 7th century, they were busy in conquering Iraq and Iran, which was part of Persia. And most of the Western movement started from North Africa, and they call it modern on that history during that time. From the Indian point of view, from the Vedic point of view, that is called barbarism or decrease in morality. So the our decline of or going into Kali Yuga started from when Krishna leaves the planet. And in my new book, I'm going to mention that very clearly, the time periods. Uh, and at that time, the decline actually started. So, like if you look at the Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are both meant to increase the moral substance in a human being so that the person can be actually progress towards moksha. But in the case of modernism of Europe, it's the reverse is true because according to the modern theories propagated by the church and Abrahamism and other cults, that the human has a predominance over matter. That is the basis or the root cause of all the modernism and all those things being taught in the universities today. Like there are many theories like classical liberalism, neoliberalism, classical conservatism, neoconservatism, and there is a new con movement also coming on. All these different terms are changing by the day. The whole purpose is to exploit the resources. Now, if you look at the history of Australia, most of the aborigines of Australia came through the natives of Asia, Malaya, and then come over there. Most of the natives of Australia followed a similar culture to the Indians in India. But today, the so called modern Australian society is actually taking out their biggest export is raw material. They are the ones who export the raw material. Like that means they are just busy in the land that they acquired illegally. The whole Australia is built on an illegal occupation of Aborigines' land. It's not their land. So again, the idea of that discoverer, founder, and discoverer owner, which is actually called theft in the modern world. So the entire Australian territory is like a theft. Same is to be said, because it was not that they were giving permission by the aborigines, but they came in such a large numbers. They used weapons to kill maximum, terrorize the maximum aborigine population, and therefore now they are owning the land of Australia. And so-called democracy was installed, and which also resulted, even there are many parliamentarians of Australia who are from the aborigine background. I've quoted many of them in my book Gold, Glory in God, where they have publicly claimed that their land was taken away by force. Until date, they face that racism. Otherwise, what will a British settler who occupied the land of Australia will get the right to sell the resources of Australia without the majority of the money being going to the aborigines? You know, the and that is called modernism. Modernism. It's like the theft in broad daylight. Now, if you look at the country of Canada, we already know what they did with Canada. Most of the Native Americans who were living on the East Coast and other parts in the West Coast and the Central, most of them were forced to convert to Christianity, because the modernism, that's where it comes to debunking modernism. Modernism was converting to Abrahamic faith propagated by the church, either whether it's a Protestant or a Roman Catholic, and they had to believe in the Bible, and that's how they became civilized. That was the whole point of modernism. And you will be shocked that all those attitudes are continuing until today. It's not, nothing has changed. Colonization has not changed. The tools of colonization have changed. The tool of modernism has changed. Now, if you look at the American experiment, more and more Americans are turning towards yoga, karma, and all kinds of Indic or Vedic origin sciences, including veganism and vegetarianism. They're converting to that. Why? Because that makes more sense. So again, now we need to change the definition of modern. Now, what happened in the USA? Same story like what happened in Australia. The USA was whimsically divided by the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, the Russians. You won't believe that Russians were also invading North America, colonizing North America. There's a place in California known as Fort Russo. Was them. Germantown, Germany was involved. Prussia. There are places known as Prussia, Prussia, including the places of Prussia in USA. Thank you, Jitu. And there are places like that even today. Like the if you look at Louisiana, Louisiana was a French territory, and the southern part of Mexico was completely colonized also. Now, do you call it modernism? No, that was called the period of colonization. But when they were preaching, why are we coming? What is the justification of coming to your land and looting you? They're saying it's modern thought. What is modern thought? Discoverer, keeper, owner. Like, for example, you go on the street today, any common law across the world, you pick up something which doesn't belong to you. It is a general common practice to return it back to whosoever it belonged to. So you deposit in the police. If you find it in a shopping mall, you take it to the whatever the office is and give it back to them. If you find it in the airport, you give it back to the lost and found at the airport. That's common law. Now, but why that law is not applicable to the lands of the natives? No, that is different thing, because now we come here, our children are born here, and we are the natives, we are the people living here. Then the whole thing becomes completely illegal, because anything owned by theft is illegal, or not taking the permission of the local people. Now, if you look at the same story happened with all parts of the world. The worst example in Asia is Philippines. Worst example. It was colonized by the Spaniards. They used to speak Tagalog, and if Filipino Americans are watching, they need to know that. They used to speak Tagalog. Tagalog is a derivation of Malaya language. It has deep connection with Brahmi script. Brahmi means Sanskrit. And We know that Spain had Hindu kings, sorry, Philippines had Hindu kings in 1486, 1490. Hinduism was a prominent religion over there. I hate to call it Hinduism because anything ism is a uh, is kind of an artificiality. So so there were all types of ancient cultures being followed in Philippines. And gradually, it's all in my book, Gold, Glory, and God. If you search Sattology on Amazon, you'll see much more detail than what I'm speaking. And the so when we go to Philippines, we see the same old cultures being prominent over there. But the language and the faith has changed, and that's called modern. Philippines has always remained a poor country, developing country. It depends on the aid of USA because it was also a US colony where the US forces were stationed there to fight with Japanese. So many of the Americans married the Filipinos, and you can still see today it's a developing country. There's a large group of Filipino Americans living near where I stay, and it's a developing country. It is never going to get developed because it's a colony. Even today, it's a colony. And the if I take the example within Asia, Indonesia is one example where the culture is Hindu or Vedic, but the religion is Arabic, and the religion has come from there. But the culture is Hindu. Again, not a fully developed country can never become a developed country because the religion or the thought process are not local. The If you take the example of Malaysia, same problem. Australia is developed country so called by the Western classification because in the West, whatever their culture, their religion is there. Actually, the West has no culture because they drink the cow's milk and kill the cow. Therefore, there is no culture. So in Australia, there is no local culture. It's what finders, keepers, owners. They found, actually, they not found, it was already existing. They knew about it. They purposely went in there and created and owned all the land by force. So they did not keep it also. Were not the caretaker also, exploiters. So if you look at the Asian story, the entire Asian story, Indonesia, Malaysia, and to some extent Brunei, and also to some extent, to a large extent Philippines, these are never going to become developed countries. They might have some phases of development because of it. Indonesia has more chance than Malaysia because still Hindus are there, the original people are still there. But Malaysia, Philippines, and Brunei, all these people have no chance, even though they may be financially rich right now. In contrast to them, other countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, to large extent, Congo, sorry, not Congo is in Africa, but most of these other countries in Asia, they have more chances of development because they are local. They have local cultures, local customs, local things over there. Same is said with India also. India is seeing the maximum development in the original culture. Till the time India was ruled from a outsider inside mindset. That's called modernism. Like if you are ruling a land based on the Western ideals and the Western conception, that means you are modern. If you do not follow Western culture, Western ideals, you are not called modern. So I'm really questioning the Western culture itself. Where is modernism over there? Where is modernism? There is no dignity to life. Like uh, I give you an example. Till date, whether it's a US or Canada, most of the foreign policies are designed to protect the colonial systems, most of them. And that's called modern. Like if the locals do not accept the colonial policies and the colonial people or the rulers who were imposed on the local people, that means they are not modern. So The idea is forget what happened with you. Just live with it, enjoy it, and tolerate it. But don't worry about what happened with you. That's called modern. Again, a faulty definition. Like if someone hurt your family, killed your family, destroyed your family, but even then, if you are accept them, like if you accept the aggressor, that means you're modern. That's the mindset going on. And anyone who supported that thought process to not take away their stolen land, which the West has done, or the church-based West has done, that is called modern. So classical example is every country had some hero. So the Aboriginal leaders, I won't take the name, in Australia, who legitimized the British occupation of Australia, and before that Dutch and French had also gone there. They were called heroes from the Aboriginal, or said to be modern in their thought. Same happened with India. Mahatma Gandhi legitimized British rule over India, and Jawaharlal Nehru. They were called heroes from the Western point of view. And they have always been good in advertising. Same with the US also. The black leaders who legitimized or accepted the European masters who said, so there are like, after you kill them and you all destroy the local culture, and then you declare that how good they were. That's called modernism. How good they were. But you have already destroyed them. You pick up few people and say how good they were. You talk good things about them. That's called modernism. Now that has happened in with the African American community. That has happened in the Native American community. The Thanksgiving is celebrated where an invader's family is coming to USA thanking the local for accepting them, but actually it wasn't accepting, it was all guns over there. And later on that family was killed also. So this is modernism, full of hypocrisy. There is no consistent value. The consistent value is only one. If you accept your invader as your own, that means you're modern. If you do not accept the invader as your own, that means you're not modern. And one of the principal strategies is always is to open museums, glorify, give access to media, give them money, position, Nobel Peace Prize, all kinds of gain entry into UN institutions. Now, all these United Nations, WHO, World Health, World Trade, full of the colonial mindset, including the five permanent members are also colonial mindset. Except China, and India could have been there if Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was not so short-sighted, where India would have been part of it. But generally, it's a grouping of the old colonial masters. Everyone else in the world, including African Union, African Union is the amount of atrocities done on African Union simply cannot be told. I'll just give you an example. The country of Ghana was sold to the Dutch for seven slaves. Seven slaves. Can you imagine that? So this is the background, what has done with African Union. So gradually, people are getting up, waking up. My book Gold, Glory, and God is these are the historical facts I've given. Not only have spoken about written books on Ramayan, my next book is also coming on Mahabharata, about the five Pandavas. So questioning the modern itself, word modern itself. Now, according to me, the entire West, the entire education system, the entire cultural system which is there, is not designed to fulfill the new aspirations of even their people who have been living in those lands. Because a human soul is far more inquisitive, and it's far more, it has come from somewhere else. Its needs are different. The needs of the soul is different. The needs of the body are different. The needs of the body, mind, and intelligence is different than the needs of the soul. As long as The soul is not able to control body, mind, and intelligence. It cannot be happy. The happiness is internal. All of us say it, all everyone talks about it, but nobody sees through the live case histories. And that's an alternative to modern, so-called Western modernism. That's why the show was titled Debunking Modernism. The modernism, according to the West, is legalizing the exploitation. And the modernism, according to Veda, is different because every day is new, every day is modern, every day is new, every moment is new. Every next 5 minutes you're going to spend is going to be new. So, this is the time to change the definitions. So, controlling intelligence, mind, and body and making your soul strong can never become a old concept because the life is new. It will always stay modern. That's the permanent impact of modernism. You have to see different ways now. Adhunik, that's a Sanskrit word, adhunik. Adhunik means which is new, something new or futuristic. This is futuristic because body is going to go away. The Western model is modern, with the Western definition of modernism is not a permanent solution. It is just for that body and that particular birth, but the soul lives on. Soul doesn't stay in that body. It's totally exploitative. So you have the body, you have to go to. So everyone who goes to the church gives the money. Money for what? Learning nothing. Excuse me. Learning nothing. What do they learn over there? That you are superior race, you have better faith, you have been saved. That's what they learn. They have been saved. How they're saved? Their karma has not changed. They're not saved. Questioning that. They are not saved. So the entire the world is now becoming influenced by these artificial thoughts. Nobody can be saved from hell or narak. Actually, narak and hell are two different things. We'll talk about in some other show. uh, Nobody can be saved from hell or narak without changing your karma. Nobody can be saved. So if anyone thinks that I can get saved, then they are living in utopia or living in some imagination, you know? So whether you are a white body or a brown body or a black body or any other color, green, play pale, whatever your color you have, karma applies to all equally. Whether you believe it or not believe it, it doesn't matter. It's a law of the nature. You may say, I don't believe in it, I belong to a church. No sir, you're wrong, totally wrong. Your church has brainwashed you. It applies to you. Rebirth applies to every single person on the planet because of the karma. If the karma is good, and surprisingly all native cultures believed in that. Even before the church started in Europe, they believed in that. Till date, they believe in it. Romanis. Until date, the church has been continuing with this modern propaganda to gain their followers for ever since they started it. It's the biggest sales body in the world. But still, it is continuing. Still, it's not stopped. In the US, also, they're continuing. In the US, they're continuing on the immigrants which they come because they found new people to preach their modern theories on, which are actually not modern. They're ultra backward properties, teachings. And they're still continuing. But the native thought, Native American thought, Native South American thought, Native Mexican thought, native natives of Asia, Hindus are the natives of India, and the native thought has remained common. They are common. They respect Surya, they respect Chandra, they respect sun, moon, air, they respect water, they respect the land, they respect and worship they understand that there are people behind these facilities, all the native cultures. That's a modern thought, that's a grateful thought, and that's never going to change. So now the definition of modern is also changing. What is called modern is something which never changes. You cannot change your soul. You can actually remove bad habits and you can bring back the original nature of who you are. We are not what we see in the mirror. We are something else. We are behind, we are inside the body. You know? So the academic institutions who propose this modern theory or modern diplomacy, the same colonial mindset comes in politics too. The politics means that taking maximum resources for yourself without giving anything back to the natives or the other people. My community should gain maximum. And so they create military alliances like NATO is there, the US, and the protecting the Western ideals. There are no Western ideals because Western ideals means that everyone else must die. The brown, the black, they are inferior races. So that's why I introduced the term called critical faith theory. It's not race theory, it's faith theory. That my faith is superior, I have better ideas, I am more civilized, therefore I am going to civilize Africa and Asia. The only problem the British faced was in India because the Vedic culture is far, far more superior and sophisticated than anything Western ever knew, including literatures. Like the quality of Ramayana and Mahabharata, even one shloka of Ramayana and Mahabharata is bigger than the entire Western civilization put together. You know what is a shloka? I can defeat the entire. I can have 700 shloka from Gita and defeat the entire philosophy 700 times. One philosophy, one shloka will, everybody knows it. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phalishu kadachana. Ma karma phali turbur mate sangostva akarmani. That shloka establishes superintendence of the essential right or adhikar. It doesn't discriminate. Everyone has a right to do their karma. Like nobody should stop anyone. This is the primordial thought process. This is the original thought process. And that destroys the entire Western society, whatever it stands for. Karma. So we uh, so this is the system we have to actually come back to. Even the white society or the brown society or the black society or any society, any color, that will be called modern. And we have to remove all the exploitative mindsets which are trying to make others like them. What is happening is that pollution everywhere. America, USA, and the UK started pollution initially, and then they exported the pollution to Asia. And now they are saying, you produce over there, send it to us so that we can have a clean air. And some foolish people in those communities, now leaders so called, they say India and China are the most polluting countries. They say, but if India and China stop producing, what are they going to live on? Tree barks? You should ask them. Tree barks? So that is the stupidity of the modern thought process. You know, like this was a statement made by President Trump. And are they going to live on tree barks? We need to ask that question to them. So just because you have moved it away from your country to some other country, you have to understand this air, water is a shared resource. It's going to come back to you. Like the another modern thought processes, battery cars. Believe me, the oil when it burns, it produces carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and produces oxygen also, and hydrogen and water. Produces all those chemicals. Not good if it is too much. Still can be managed by earth, by the trees. What about the chemicals in the batteries? Cannot be managed. It is far worse pollution than anything which we have seen. is going to destroy the soil. What are you going to eat? So the so-called batteries are going to destroy. What happened with the windmills? All the big blades of the windmills, which produce electricity, they kill so many birds, and they do not produce continuous power. They produce only when there is high wind. So all these modern thought process are actually proving to be destruction of the planet. The more important thing for human being is something like yajna is rejected, swadhyaya is rejected, yoga is rejected, controlling mind is rejected, controlling intelligence is rejected, controlling senses is rejected. Is it real modern? All the basic things which a human needs are rejected. So where is modernism now? And all the TV channels, YouTube channels, they are all analyzing Ukraine, Russia, and all this going on, which I'm pretty bored with all the whole thing. The real problem is the greed over there. The problem was created again. Destroy the enemy, destroy the enemy, destroy the enemy. That's modern. We are superior. We are the West. We are truthful. We have values. All church propaganda. We have more better values than others. Actually, they don't have any values. If they don't believe in karma, they have no values. The entire Western society falls in front of karma. I've written in my book called Glory in God. You can read it, check it out. If any Western person would like to listen to see their own history, see, my point is very simple. They were all searching for India, for spice trade, and because it could remove the diseases they were suffering, not for the taste. They were looking for India, and in that process, destroyed North America, South America, looted Australia, Asia, looking for India though, and destroyed Africa also. So it is our duty to rewrite their history, tell them what you were actually looking, and that's what I've done the first attempt. In the second version of the same book, I'm going to put something more in that, much deeper. But now, if you look at all the modernism thought process, just a false ego, fake ego. We are better looking, therefore we are the masters. No. We have Indians have proved that they have better looks, and most of the Western societies, they regularly create all the new things like the Miss Universe, Miss World. For a mother, every child is a Mr. Universe or Miss Universe. Every child, because that's the beauty is in the eyes of beholder. You cannot have a competition that is the best looking person or most looking person. That decision should be left to Devta because they look from outside. They're not involved with us. The Devtas declared Nakul and Sahadev as the best looking people ever lived on the planet. That's what they said 5,000 years back. They don't talk about Vishnu avatar like that because Vishnu is always the best looking. So, but he's not human also. But add all other avatar, all other human amongst humans, Nakul and Sahadev were called in those times. Now, so all these different theories of how anything which complies with the West is modern, or something like iPhone. Now, has iPhone or smartphone increased peace of mind to anyone? No. It's a convenient tool though. I use it, everyone else use it. And it's a great invention, by the way, because now you don't have to, you need the computer all the time. You can do something on the phone. But has it solved the basic problem of peace of mind? Not. You have to keep it away to get peace of mind. Like you have to switch it off for a couple of hours so that you get peace of mind. So, so debunking modernism completely. So if you really want to be modern, focus on your karma. That's modernism. Because that's how you're going to save yourself and others. Not just, not just you'll save yourself and others. You know. So, so thank you very much for joining today. I'll take some questions and It's been a long time, 40 minutes. So, Amit Singh ji, sometimes because we have a lot of people who do not understand Hindi, I have to speak in English for them too. Okay? So don't worry, we'll do it next time. And Vedika Bhardwaji is saying, "You have said beautiful is in the eye of the beautiful. How can we say Draupadi was the most beautiful woman? She was. Draupadi was, but at the same time, Madri was also most beautiful. Kunti was also most beautiful, and there are many other people most beautiful. So, but in that context, Draupadi is called like that. Draupadi is the heroine of Mahabharata, so you need to know that. And then we have the question is Parvati Bhatt. I'm reading the Valmiki Ramayana. Didn't my Shabari's caste or what she tasted? You're right. In Valmiki Ramayana, there is no such mention. Shabari is a great sadhu. She's a great sadhu. She is the one who, if you read my book, One Arrow, One Kill, or The Global Footprint of Ramayana from Kaput, I mentioned that incident. She is, see, the birth-based caste is never mentioned anywhere. So you have to understand caste is a European word. It has no connection with Varna. And the Rishi Munis, their Varna is never asked. It's called an offensive word statement. And the uh, any other question anyone has? This little bit Vedika Bhardwaj. Uh, some gender marriage considered accepted modern in the West. Is that acceptable in the scriptures or not? So this is, that's what I keep saying, that the modernism is a church-based concept. For them, they are accepting it for votes. They don't actually accept it. Like there is a lot of discrimination. In Vedas, there is no such discrimination against such people. In Hindus, you'll like we never discuss these topics. Also, these are personal choice. And in the Ayurveda, there is a section on samlangikta, curing samlangikta. So anyone can read it. But there was no social discrimination. Shikhandi was the king. He was not asked. He was considered a woman. He was born as a boy, but he thought himself like a woman. And so he was considered a woman. He was given a respect what he asked for. Yeah. So thank you, Jitu Meenaji. Thank you for becoming a member of our channel. So, and there's a question has come. ऋषि मुनि देव ऋषि में क्या अंतर है? Rishi is one who does tapasya. Muni is one who is a thinker. Like he does tapasya, but he's like he guides the society in thinking. Rishi is a common word used for everyone. And Deva Rishi is only people who are Narad Muni is called Deva Rishi because he's a Deva, he's a Gandharva in the Dev category, and he's a Tapasvi also. This is called Deva Rishi. There are other Devarshi also. There are Markandeya Rishi is also called Devarshi sometimes. But Narad Muni is mainly called Maharshi. Maharshi means person who is considered senior in Tapasya. Maharshi. So many, and Rajarshi is also there. The kings who have retired and to do Tapasya is called Rajarshi. So there are many kings like that. Okay. आपको समझ में आया होगा अगली बार अगला शो हिंदी में होगा तो विल टॉक इन डिटेल तभी पूछ लीजिएगा अगला शो हिंदी में होगा विल कंसिडर will last next week we'll discuss on Ramayan, a particular incident we'll discuss. And there is a question here. If you have any questions, you can ask on any of the past topics. There are a lot of shows there. If you want to read I've already done the yatra of Pandavas. There are four shows on that. On Sundays I've done it. I have Ramayan shows I've done. Then I can gradually pick up the travel of Sugriva in detail after my next book is out. Because my book is almost to be out, the new one. That will be my 12th book. So once I do that, then I'll have more time. Right, I'm busy with that. And then thank you, Yuvraj Karan, and thank you all the people who are joining, and thank you, Amit Singh ji, for coming on the show. And if anyone has any commission, has European enlightenment failed, Jitu ji? Yes, obvious, absolutely, absolutely, it has failed. Enlightenment is a big joke. Understand, without yoga, without meditation, without karma, there is no enlightenment. It's a big joke. And the entire classicism and the fake sophistication that is displayed. See, understand one thing: a thief will always pretend to be a very sophisticated person. That's exactly what European Enlightenment is. It has destroyed the world and keeps destroying the world every single day. And we all know that the dollar as a reserve currency was the ultimate neo-colonialism. It is a colonialism that you make the world so dependent on your financial systems, and then I control you. If I put sanctions on you, it's like I buy from you, I live on you, I make money from you, but I put sanctions on you also. So that's how they control. Like it's a very rakshasi asuric way of control, very deep rooted. So it's a complete nonsense which is going on. If something can be called nonsense, is this: that how the rest of the world has become a slave of few countries, especially the white European race. In the USA, that's a biggest problem. They're going back to their European roots. Obviously, they'll go back because that's where they came from. So they're still fighting in Europe now, again, back to Europe. Native Americans are not going there. They're not even connected to Europe. It's the European Americans who are settled here, who are the settlers. They are the ones who are going back to Europe. Native Americans have nothing to do with it. You know, so European Enlightenment has definitely failed, and it has never happened in the first place. Also, there Shakespeare and all these pretty nonsense books over there. I will never read Macbeth and all these nonsense books. I never read it and never will read it. In front of Ramayana and Mahabharata, they pale. Like Shakespeare looks like a kindergarten kid. You know, their great hero is Winston Churchill, who killed 30 million Indians, Hindus. 30 million. How can he be a hero of mine? You know? I am from Assam. Silchar is the land of Ghatotkach of Mahabharata. Absolutely. Actually, the Ghatotkach is from Malaya Desh. It's today's Indonesia, those islands, and Assam also. And Ghatotkach was a Rakshas. He could fly. It's mentioned. He used to come with a team of Rakshas and fly. Take Pandavas from one hill to another hill. It's coming in my new book. You know. And thank you so much for. Thank you for actual name. I need to see your. I can read that Milachi. Type your name so that I can recognize you. So definitely, European Enlightenment has failed, and we are still seeing the old mindsets. There is nothing changed in those people. It's a very sad state of affairs, and so we need to come back to the original thought process. Original thought process is karma, yoga, and self-control. That's a modern thought process. Anirban, thank you, Anirban, thank you. And that's a real thought process, you know. And once we do that, then we gradually start changing for the better, more stronger. They hate India. I'm telling you, they hate India. They just say they're very nice country, great country, but they hate India because it's going against the Western thought process of exploitation. They want to, that's why they want the whole world to convert to Christianity or their religion so that they can exploit them. Democracy is a tool to exploit others because then they can easily influence. They can send intelligence agencies, they can change governments. That's why they want democracy everywhere. They don't have democracy in their own country. I mean, in USA, those of you who live in USA, you are so much scared of the law. Like total freedom you don't have. You have to work as per the law. And most of the times you don't get justice in the courts unless you have money. So we go back to all those things we have to keep questioning. Now there's one more question here. Sir, does Kapil Muni belong from Rus? Kapil Muni is from India, from Bharat Bhumi. And understand, there was no such Russia during that time. Uttar Kuru is in Kyrgyzstan. North of Kyrgyzstan is called Uttar Kuru. So you have to understand that entire Jambu Dweep, our rishis munis used to roam freely. Maharishi Atri was in the Astachal most of the times. Astachal is in Europe, Alps mountains. So and it's very clear. And people say Meru Parvat. If you look at the Wikipedia, then they say Meru Parvat is somewhere outside. No, Meru Parvat is on Earth, Altai Mountains. The west of Meru Parvat, so like Himalaya, Gandhamadhan, Mandarachal, Meru Parvat. That's how it goes, sequence. So Himalaya you can see very clearly. After that is Gandhamadhan. Then after that Mandarachal on the east. The Tibetan hills are called Mandarachal. And then north is Meru Parvat. That's how it sequences. Why are Indians attracted to West liberalism? They're not attracted to anything. They don't even understand. Jitoji. They don't understand. Only the authors like me write about it, but they don't understand. The Indians don't understand. They don't because it's not important for them. Any Western thought is very Western liberalism means freedom from church. Literally, freedom from church. If they throw away the church, that's Western liberalism. So people who follow liberalism in the West, they become yogis. The Republican Party hates them, by the way. They become yogi, karma. All these things are hated by the Republican Party because it's against conservatism. But the Democrats are hypocrites also. They don't actually do liberalism. They still are the church party. Hillary Clinton is the biggest evangelist. But still, they they pretend to accept them, but nobody accepts it. So there is no liberalism in the church because it's anti-church word. Most of the Indians don't understand it. You have to read my book, Gold, Glory, and God. Anyone of you search Sattology and you'll see Gold, Glory, and God. Because then you'll get a good idea on what I'm talking. Because on the show, I cannot say much. I can only answer you a few questions. If you read the book, then you'll have some background to talk. One question of Vedika Bhardwaji, and we'll end the show today. Better, please talk about Radharani. A lot of understand one thing. Radharani, Anya Radhita Radhe. About Radharani, Bhagavad Puran has one line, Anya Radhite, Shukdev Goswami says. Because she is the internal energy of Krishna, and people don't talk about personal matters in public. So no Rishi, no Muni, nobody will talk about her. It's one of the secrets of Bhagavad Puran. Bhagavad Puran has mentioned it. Okay, there's one gopi which was special, but her name is not taken. The reason was Shukdev Goswami would not be able to speak more. He was so emotionally connected because he is considered as a parrot of Srimati Radharani. Okay? So thank you all very much for joining, and we'll meet you next Sunday. Today we were late because we are trying a few things on our StreamYard, and that's why we were late. So next week we'll meet again. Namaste, Jai Shri Ram, and please remember what I spoke today. You can share with multiple people. Thank you.